Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob Hernandez, along with Joshua Sean. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. I was just saying, damn it, I forgot my drink.
Oh, I've got water right here. I always have dry throat in this heat, so I've got water. I'm ready. I got like two of these things ready to go. I
Yeah,
drink my daily limit during the entire show.
yeah. Hey, Raina, how you doing? Hey, Deb. Yeah, no, it's so hot, and so I had a Gatorade in my freezer, so might need to go grab it.
Yeah, you want to go grab that real quick?
No, we'll be all right for a minute. So yeah, Josh, I got Josh all pumped up for the show. Before we went live, I started playing some old school punk for him.
It was the
Um
Vandals, right?
yeah, the Vandals. We'll
No,
listen to some country music.
yeah, it was interesting. It was the Vandals playing a country song, or it sounded like it was from the movie we were talking about, Suburbia.
Yeah, it's called Urban Struggle.
Right.
So
Well,
anyway,
yeah. Welcome everyone. We are streaming live as the sun sets here in Los Angeles, California. And we are streaming to liveparanormal.com and their affiliated social marketing and media affiliates, affiliated with the Pair Awakening and our affiliated affiliates. Welcome to our international listeners. This is the ITC and Paranormal Podcast.
so we can start off really quick. Thank you everybody for helping out with the project I'm working on.
Yeah.
I assigned four people. Homework assignment with some different tests to do. And the funny thing is that the tests went. Everybody's having the same type of experience. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. They're all pretty much getting the same type of answers. Um, Even though that this is banked audio, all the audio for in this program is in reverse, but none of those responses are in the replies that they're getting. And they're pretty much getting the same type of replies. And um, a lot of the replies that they're getting is same things that we're getting from the show, same names that we're getting from the show on Saturday nights. So it's pretty crazy. Um, yeah.
How
So
long will the experiment be going on for?
I just had them do it this week, but then we'll continue on some other stuff this weekend. So I'll have another assignment this weekend for other people that want to be involved. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Oh,
So
that's excellent.
yeah, um, yeah. So everything's been going kind of crazy with this whole project. So um, it's been pretty amazing so far. Uh, can't wait to start with the hardware end of it soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm catching up. There's at every turn there's something new to do, or I stumble upon twice I've stumbled upon something by accident that makes the project better, or I realize, oh, now I need these parts to do this. So there's a lot of that. Obviously, I don't know. I think we're trying to do something with the hardware that hasn't been done before. It is different now. Whether it works or not is still yet to be seen in terms of the hardware version. But we are trying something different. So there's no blueprints for this. So there's definitely a lot of theory, number crunching, and then applying that number crunching into real life and making sure the project works. So
Yeah, and trial and error. So
right, yeah, there's a lot of trial and error. Yeah, definitely. So,
well,
but yeah,
oh, go ahead.
no, just nothing.
Hey Carl, glad you're on tonight. No, it's been a pleasure that and thank you for helping out with that. Um I know it was a little crazy. You had a little bit of some technical issues, but then we talked about an alternative and you've had some great success with that also. So now it's awesome seeing everybody's results so far. And we'll talk little bit more about it in depth on the Saturday show, since that's basically what we're working on that show. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on that show. I had a lot of fun, and I think we had some really good sessions, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Oh no, I mean it was a blast Saturday. I can't believe on how long and how quick that show on Saturday went. I mean, I wanted to keep going, but I if I don't keep to my rules, they're just going to be broken, and I'm going to go back to the old habits and stay on till the break of dawn, pretty much.
Yeah, before you were going for hours, and then you were wearing out the entire next day of anything else you had to do. And I've got to get to building ghost boxes, but you couldn't because you hadn't slept in 72 hours. So
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Um,
hello everyone. Yeah, thank you for joining us. We have a lot of people still joining in. Gaynor, how are you? Janice, Carl, Ben, Katie. Thank you guys. Roland, Terry.
welcome everybody.
We're going to be, and we're going to get into this in the show here in a second, but we're going to be asking you to kind of join us with your imaginations this evening. And what I say by imaginations is we're going to discuss, in a very loose and general sense, string theory and physics. And I'm talking about as basic can be, but we're going to try and line up ITC, or instrumental transcommunication, with string theory, and specifically the 11 dimensions. Superstring theory has 10 dimensions. M theory adds one more, but we're going to look at the 11 dimensions. How does that sound, Rob?
No, it sounds good.
Any other announcements you want to make before I get into it? Because when I get into it, we ain't stopping.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, our topics are always changing. So some weeks during the beginning of the show, it can get a little technical. Um, and then as the show goes on, we kind of loosen up and then talk about other things. Um, yeah. So just be prepared. Like I said, the show's themes are always changing. We kind of have a topic to start off with, and then we'll just go, you know, um, just by the seat of our pants, pretty much.
Well, you tend to do that. I like to come in with notes and fully planned. So we meet somewhere in the middle.
I just like coming in hot.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Your opinions, and yeah, you come in a little too hot sometimes, my friend. I'm going to let you know when you do.
That's okay.
And you're going to remind me to stop using Safari and start using Chrome.
Yeah, you got to throw out that word salad out there.
Yeah. No more word salad and no more Safari. Stick with Chrome for our Apple branded products.
Oh yeah, I was giving you crap about Safari.
Right.
I might have to just chop up your word salad.
Yeah. No one. Yeah. If anyone's going to chop it up, it's got to be you. Well, a quick background on why we're even bringing this up this evening is more recently when Rob and I were working on our project, and we're consulting people that have doctorates in physics, or obviously smarter than Rob and I combined. We're getting opinions on things. A lot of the times these discussions on quantum physics, string theory, M theory, and different things, particle physics, they come up just maybe in a more philosophical sense, because obviously the mathematics is not something we're going to be discussing on the podcast, nor Rob and I are qualified to carry out specific quadratic and derivative functions to show you how space-time works. I'm not qualified to do that. Are you, Rob?
Nope.
Okay, well, we're not qualified to do that, but we're going to talk about it philosophically. Why? It came up like this. In ITC, we've all noticed a lot of the times it appears, again, in theory, that we get responses that they already know the answers to. There's times when they seem to know the questions ahead of time.
Yep.
There's instances or circumstances that happen that are so synchronous, you wonder, did they know that event was coming or already transpiring? I saw a video recently on string theory, and there's a lot of criticism on string theory. A lot of it's been disproven, but again, we're just asking you to use your imagination with us tonight. We're not taking anything literally. We can't prove anything. This is just theory. It's just for fun. But in string theory, we're looking at roughly 10 dimensions, with M theory being 11. In bosonic string theory, there's 26 dimensions. We're not going down that rabbit hole. We're going to look at the closest dimensions that, in theory, we may be able to communicate with, or there's some type of interaction. Can you still hear me, Rob?
Yep.
Okay, my computer's freaking out. Okay, there we go. So let's just quickly address these dimensions and let's look at them. And let's just play around with if string theory was indeed explaining our universe or our existence to some degree, who would we be contacting? And how would they be contacting us, keeping string theory in mind? The first two dimensions we're just going to kind of blow past because they're actually more difficult to understand than even probably some of the higher dimensions. The 0th dimension is there's no length, no width, no height. There's nothing. Okay, let's move on. The first dimension we can classify as a single dot without the ability to move in any direction, just a single dot. Consider that the first dimension. The second dimension, let's consider two dots connected by a straight line with the ability to move left or right, or to be more specific, forward or backward. But there's no three-dimensional space. There's no length, width, and height. There's just length and width, essentially. Or actually, no, it would actually be probably width and height. Okay, just follow me here. We're getting to the main point. The third dimension, here we go. This is where we are. We have length, width, and height. Think of a three-dimensional cube. Time moves in a forward direction only, and this is where we get into the fourth dimension. It's basically the third dimension plus time. Now, it's the next three dimensions that interest me the most for the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. These are the ones that interest me the most. I draw things for you guys. I don't even get Photoshop. I actually hand draw some of these things. So here we go. In the fourth dimension, there's no accessibility, according to string theory and how this has been laid out to me by someone who understands, who has a doctorate in physics. These were the examples they gave to me. But in the fourth dimension, theoretically, there's no access to parallel dimensions. In the fourth dimension, there would be a mastery of time, either moving in the forward direction or in the backward direction, but only one at a time. So let's take an example here. How you doing, Rob? You okay?
I'm good.
Okay, I just don't want to put you to sleep. In the fourth dimension, we have an instance here where we purchased a vehicle. We go forward in time. Here we are in the present time. Now, if we want to go back in time and change our vehicle purchase, we could go back in time here to T2. We could purchase a different vehicle and take the alternate timeline this way. But only one timeline and decision can be made at a time in the fourth dimension. If we want to go back to our original car, we have to go back in time through this alternate timeline, then go back forward to the present with a different car. So you can only move one direction in time at one instance. There are no parallel worlds or universes available in the fourth dimension. Again, all in theory, just follow me here. Okay, the fifth and sixth dimension, and this is where I think in theory, the people that we're talking to, them, spirit, interdimensional aliens, however it would be considered, I was guessing it might be in one of these two dimensions, the fifth or sixth dimension, and here's why. The fifth dimension is the fourth dimension plus moving in time as desired. An individual, hypothetically living in the fifth dimension, could maneuver time as desired. You could also exist in multiple places at one time. Parallel dimensions exist and are accessible, but there's no shortcuts. In the fifth dimension, we could purchase that car, go forward in time to present time. If we wanted a different car, we could go back in time and go to an alternate timeline. Or in the fifth dimension, we could access this timeline. but we can't do it through a shortcut. We have to follow a path to go back in time and then take an alternate route. The only differences here is parallel worlds come into play or they start to exist. And I wonder if some of the beings that we're talking to, other than spirit, again, in theory, because time seems to not be relevant to the intelligence we're speaking to or the communication we're getting. If they are in these dimensions, because a lot of the times they know details about our life that we don't know. They know details about the future that we don't know, and many have come true. I'm not talking about winning the lottery, but those who have asked, how am I going to die? They get a response. It's been documented. They die by lung cancer, or they die by a certain ailment that they were told about, or someone else does. It's happened. It's been documented. Now, the sixth dimension, and we're going to stop after the sixth dimension because some of the other dimensions start to get very, very complicated. But the sixth dimension is here. It's everything we talked about in the fifth dimension, where the parallel universes and worlds exist, and where multiple versions of ourselves carry out their lives. But in this version, we can access parallel worlds at the same time point. We don't have to follow some kind of logical thought, if you will, and go back in time to a point of a major decision where we purchased our car, pick a different car, and take an alternate timeline. So instead of following these timelines in order, if you will, we can now, in the sixth dimension, take a shortcut to these parallel universes.
Where time doesn't exist.
Exactly. I don't know how well that can be seen. But anyway, and to try and keep this topic can't be contained in a few minutes, but here's the point. It goes on to talk about the seventh dimension, eighth dimension, ninth dimension, and possibly in the 10th dimension, that's where a supposed creator would live because there's infinite powers there. Time can be manipulated, multiple worlds and universes can be accessed. But it got me thinking to a lot of the responses we've received in ITC over the decades. And it just seems like there's so many responses or answers that, again, they know the answers to, or they forecast future events. And I wonder, if they're in this place without time and they see past, present, and future all at once in our universe or maybe in parallel universes, what type of information are we getting?
Right.
And Rob, it made me think about your recent project and the information and responses you're getting. And again, string theory, none of this is provable. I'm just asking us to use our imagination, but where is it coming from? And what are obviously we can only guess, but what are the details surrounding it? What do they know about our past, present, and future, or parallel universes?
Yeah. And the more and more people that I'm talking to about this theory, and this comes from people that know about higher learning. If you talk to people about and that are into mediumship, people that do higher learning, they talk about hierarchies. So basically, there's hierarchies when you start talking to. There's different levels of communication. There's low level, and then there's higher level. Um, Most communication that's happening is a lower level communication. There's very select few. It's almost like they're invited to communicate in a higher level. Um, and it seems like that's where a lot of the communication's coming from. Because the communication is different. It's a lot different. Um,
Yeah, and
it
this isn't, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no. Go ahead.
I was just going to interject and say I wasn't trying to categorize any of this communication into string theory. Again,
No. I mean, but it kind of falls into play with this.
Just thinking about like a hierarchy or how if there are different dimensions, however many number, where is this communication coming from? And it's, again, the surrounding details of that communication. That's what it's trying to get us to think about.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in the hierarchy of angels, the hierarchy of demons, there is a hierarchy, and there it's documented. Once you start, trying to communicate with certain levels, depending on who you're trying to channel, yeah, there's a hierarchy. Um, you can, it is documented. But I'm just talking about like the Western world of religion. If you look at that, it'll talk about, the different hierarchies. People that are into demonology, they'll talk about the hierarchy of demons. Um, anyway,
Well,
so,
and
but
mhm.
also when it comes to the spirit realm, there's also a hierarchy. And it's talked about a lot in mediumship. I just don't want to go into too much because it can get very in depth. I'm just giving everybody like a basic knowledge or basic understanding um, about that.
Yeah, the discussion of string theory and the dimensions in M theory are so far advanced. I mean, they're even beyond a lot of times in my comprehension. So we're doing the best we can just to kind of give an overview of what it would be like. But it got me thinking, spirit and religion in general talk about astral planes or vibrating frequency or vibration at different levels. And science talks about dimensions. Are these possibly one and the same in some way? I mean, I know they're not directly connected. One is very much evidence in math, based on mathematics. One is based on feeling in being intuitive and having understanding and having faith in many ways.
Mm.
But there do seem to be some type of correlation to where, whether you want to talk about frequency or higher vibration and or dimensions,
Mm.
there is this general concept on either side that time is different, either experienced different or it doesn't exist. And like we see in the fifth and sixth dimension, past, present, and future are all accessible at the same time. And a person living in that dimension could be at multiple places at one time and have experiences because time is simply a dimension. It's accessible. It can be manipulated. So are we getting communication from this area? Again, not lottery numbers. I'm not talking about anything, we would imagine superficial, but I mean, the hard questions, the genuine questions people have asked. How is this person going to pass away, or my loved one? And Rob, we've talked to people where they've gotten responses, and sure enough, if years later, this person dies by that ailment.
Yeah.
Other examples as well. That's just one of them. But it does seem like there is definitely a discrepancy in time on how we may only be able to perceive time in the forward direction in our dimension, but it's accessible just like going to one place or another. Here in our dimension, time is easily accessible in another dimension.
Yeah. No, and like I just highlighted with Carl's response. Yes, Carl, you're absolutely right. The way that my communication started, or my whole experiment started, was it wasn't replies through a spare box. I was getting replies with there was no radio involved. It's just vibration um, in high frequency. So started getting a lot of weird messages, a lot of communication coming through. Um, and I have recordings of it that I've shared with individuals. Josh was one of them. So they kind of were like, wow, you've typed, and this is how I started learning about the hierarchy. They started telling me who was going to start communicating with me first, and it happened. Um, they told me how the communication was going to occur more and more, um, and how to do it. Um, yeah, and it started happening more and more. Um, It's hasn't happened to anybody that I know of. That it's only been through mediumship. So nobody's been able to hear it. Um, and get audio recordings of it. But anyway, that's kind of how it all started. And that's what I'm working on. And that's what is going on. So a lot of the communication that's coming through, it's all spoken in code. And it's like left for me to decipher it. And I know that there's others getting this information also. Um, but it's pretty amazing. Um, and where there's, somebody saying that there was two components involved and they were capacitors, was kind of interesting because I got similar communication, but I didn't take it as capacitors. I took it as something totally different. So I tried it and I got a response, just saying that it's just not quite right yet. So that's something that I have to work on. So it's something that I'm currently working on. I just wanted to try a quick test before I continued on with my research. So I had four people do it, and their results are pretty amazing so far. So that's where we're at with everything.
Right. And, Rob, I know when we have this discussion on the phone, it's not, we just, I don't even want to say take what we're saying with a grain of salt. We're just using our imagination here. There's nothing definitive about what we're talking about. Again, there's so much criticism about string theory and about where it's coming from. If it's coming from anywhere, I mean, we don't know. I'm just contemplating this idea of there's a place of a dimension of no time, past, present, and future are viewable at the same time. And if we are getting communication from this dimension, if we are, or these dimensions, however this works, it would make sense that they would know future events. Or they knew the question we were thinking before we even fully thought it in our brain to ask it, to have it come out of our mouth, we're getting an answer. And I know that's happened to so many of us. So it's just kind of food for thought, just thinking about these possible dimensions. And as this list goes higher, it goes into the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension where there are no more physical objects. There's no more mass. It's just energy. And eventually getting to the 11th dimension, or string, if you will, where this one-dimensional string exists in an 11-dimensional space. It's interesting. It's an interesting application to try and connect this communication we're receiving to this. Again, it's just kind of for fun. It's kind of an entertaining discussion more than anything to seriously believe this is exactly how it's working. But definitely there seems to be, and I think everyone's documented this issue of we're experiencing time in a forward direction only, and this communication we're receiving seems to have completely different parameters. Whether it's time for them can move forward and backward, it's present, past, present, and future are available at all times, and or the situation where these beings, whoever they are, maybe it's spirit or family, interdimensional beings, whatever they are, can be at multiple places at the same time, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. Are we done thinking about it?
No. I'm just sending a post. I'm reading through the comments.
Okay, so Ben wants to know, have you specifically asked about these different levels?
I have. And all they said was yes. Wouldn't give me any specifics. And the whole funny thing with this, it's like what I figured out is they can give you pieces of the puzzle, but they can't give you the solution. I don't know if that's a rule. I don't know. But that's what I am. I've come to the conclusion, and I've talked to some other people that I'm consulting with, and they said, yeah, that no, they can't give you specifics. They can give you pieces to the puzzle, but that's about it. It's your job to solve the puzzle.
So a lot of it is coming in coded, if you will.
It is coded. If you ever hear some of the messages that come through, well, I mean, I sent you a few things that I've gotten, and it leaves you more frustrated than anything else. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're like, wait a minute, I know what they're talking about. Then you try it, and then you get results. Then, or some type of result. And then they were like, no, that's still not it. It's close, but not, you're not there yet. And it's like, damn it. So yeah, it just has you keep on going, pushing forward. And I think that that's what um they're wanting to do, is just keep on going until you get it right.
Right. And that's, I mean, that's something I know that you've been inspired to do, that you felt like it pushes you and it keeps you going. And that's, I mean, that's where we are today. What this was 3 or 4 months in the making, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this was early summer.
Yeah. And
And
and and I mean, and it's kind of funny because you get answers to certain things. I mean, and they're blunt. They're like, you ask questions and they kind of laugh and they said, that doesn't work. Um, and they're kind of mean about it. But I think it might just be more of frustration on their part. But anyway, that's all I'm
well,
gonna say. With
and I've documented, and several of our colleagues, Rob, have documented this as well. If we do ask the tough questions, or when we all have, we can all admit it, is I've received responses that there's some type of rule, or there's rules in place, or there's some type of universal law where they can't. It seems like when we move up frequency or vibration into another dimension, the astral planes, the afterlife, whatever, wherever our consciousness goes, that universal knowledge is returned to us.
mm-hmm.
And that gift is given back to us. We all receive that. And the whole point of experiencing this three-dimensional world where we are here on Earth is that we don't want, our brains don't have the capacity to understand this cosmic quantum knowledge. And two, even if we could process it, it doesn't seem like that's the point of being here, in the sense that those rules are, we can't, there's a universal law or rule. We can't share everything with you. It's either for you to figure out or not to figure out at all.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
If that's how it works. Again, we've documented different responses kind of coming to that idea or theory, but again, it's just a theory.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Terry, I mean, I have played some of the clips. I played them last week during both shows. Um, with a voice coming through saying that it wasn't quite right yet. I played that twice last week. So I don't, if people miss it, they can go back and listen to the replays of my shows. I mean, they're recorded, or our shows, I should say. So they are recorded, so people can go back and rewatch or listen. Um, yeah, I mean, I have nothing to hide. I just don't share a lot of. I will share some results as it comes, but like during a lot of the tests and things like that, I don't really share that. Um, because it's really not my place to share it, I feel. Well, I've been told actually. Um, not yet. Until I figure out everything, then at that point, then I'll start sharing more. But it's just like with somebody else trying to experiment. You just keep on going until you get it all figured out, and then you can release the results.
Uh, Kanga says, I was able to view the room from several perspectives at once. I saw the souls who came to meet her. I had telepathic conversation with her in yellow. It makes no sense at all. Talk about his grandmother's passing.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Kanga.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, and it does feel like, it's you're invited. So it's like you can't share a lot of the information um because those people weren't invited. I know that sounds kind of a little harsh, but and it's hard to explain. I mean, that's why sometimes I'm still like baffled. How is this even possible? I don't know. It's happening, but how it's happening, it's just weird. It's just hard to. It's really hard to explain.
Hey, Janice, how are you? No, and you know what? I think it's, you know, I understand what you're working on in terms of your experiments, and as long as I've been doing this, I haven't received that type of communication before, or nor I don't believe I've ever been helped in the sense of, Josh, use this device or switch over to this. I can't recall. Well, listen, if I had been told, I would be able to remember off the top of my head, but really thinking about it, I don't think, even the few times I've asked, is there anything I can do to my setup or what I'm doing? I haven't received a response. Or I'll get something sarcastic, and I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm saying. It's like,
they'll say something random like, not vacuum cleaner, but something completely like, wait, what? Did you just say some random word? Or I'll get some kind of smart ASS response like that, which is great evidence in itself, right? I mean, in that sense, but I can't say that I've ever had any clues thrown my way. Yeah.
no, I mean, and it's like with you, Josh, when I built your box for you,
Mhm.
and and you were working with a couple other things, and you were experimenting with what we discussed, and you started getting communication. It wasn't, I guess, as loud, but you were getting communication, and it is hard to hear. That's how I started. You can hear, well, even in the clip I played last week, it was very faint. And I was like, okay, but there's something there. How can I get it cleaned up? How can I make it audible so we can understand what it said? And when I when I did clean it up, I ran it through some filters through my DAW, and it was like, holy shit. And I shared it with you. And then I said, you know what? This isn't really anything that I would consider like confidential for my ears only. So I played it. Um, and and it's still, I mean, still to this day, I'm still, you know, surprised. And um, I still get very emotional when I'm talking about working on this project.
Right.
And sometimes I think that, that's why I back off, because I get so emotional, and it just, and the feelings that you get when you're getting this communication, it's something I've never experienced before.
And that's important for you to mention, because as long as I've known you, working in ITC specifically, and the responses you've gotten, nothing has ever appeared emotional at all to speak of. I mean, it's amazing. It's a miracle. This communication is a miracle. I don't mean to downplay it at all. But in terms of knowing you and how you react to things, and knowing you for so many years, and then all of a sudden this happening and seeing those emotions come out, is probably more convincing to me than anything else. Is your reaction, your vibration, your personality changing? Those are almost more telling. And it seems like there is something more behind this. And I am getting a lot of the communication you're getting, but here's how I'm getting it. And this is what's so interesting, from one ITC operator to the other using the same equipment. My responses are embedded in the white noise, about 60 to 70 decibels below full scale, or zero.
Hmm.
Essentially, we're talking very quiet, just audible enough so you can hear it if you're concentrating. Now, through the process of being an audio engineer and using tools, I can bring that up, and I can hear responses and communication just in embedded white noise. But it's happening quicker and sooner, and the results are exponentially growing for you. Whereas for me, they're kind of plateaued for right now. I mean, I have enough to work with to do our project, but at the same time, I'm just not getting them at the level you are. And so that's remarkable. Same equipment, I mean, same box, everything identical. Same setups. We've been working on the same gain staging and conversion process. And yet my responses are coming in different. That's very interesting to me as well.
Yeah, and that's what. So the weird thing is, yeah, the frequencies are so low. Um, they're almost at, God, maybe trying to even think of the range, but they're pretty close to zero. I mean, there may be like, if the volume range goes from 0 to 10, right? Or 1 to 10.
Mhm.
I'm just
Just an
trying to
example. Yeah, sure.
give something an example. They're like
Mhm.
at a point 0.5,
Exactly. Right.
a point 0.5 to maybe 2. So,
Very low. Yes.
but then the audio frequency that I'm using is so much higher, and you're basically hearing when the high frequency is going through like a low phase, um, and then you'll hear a piece of a voice, and you're like, "Wait a minute, there's a voice there." Um, Same thing like when I sent the audio file for people to use during this experiment. If you listen hard enough, you can hear whispers, what sounds like whispers in that track. Yet there is no embedded voices in the track at all. Um, Even if you amplify it, it sounds like whispers, but there's not. It's really strange. So, but that frequency, it helps to bring in these voices when I'm doing my experiment. And it's funny, I mean, they'll communicate when they want to communicate. It's always at weird times,
Right. And there's that element of free will.
right?
There's that element of free will that, again, Rob, no matter how much you perfect your project or how much I work on ours or whatever technology anyone's using is, you know, there's an element of free will. This is intelligence, conscious intelligence, as far as we know, and they have free will as well. So there's nothing. I think there's a misconception that some equipment or instrumental transcommunication can proliferate more communication or get them to talk more, and I don't think that's up to us. You know, I definitely believe there's an element of cooperation that needs to happen as well. So the best piece of technology without cooperation isn't going to produce any results.
Yeah.
And it it's interesting though that what you're working with or implementing harmonic frequencies it is going back to a very, very original theory or idea of stochastic resonance,
Mhm.
is using frequency to amplify or to double or create a resonant frequency to make voices louder, to make communication louder, essentially giving them more natural amplification.
Yeah. But yeah, the funny thing is they're banned with static. Um,
Hey, Spirit Vision ITC.
it's different than static. It's not white noise at all. Um, it's almost like they hate white noise. As far as with this experiment that I've been doing, it might work for lower communication, but as far as higher communication, there is no white noise. It's a totally different frequency.
Uh, there was a comment, just I didn't want to leave you out, Chimera. She said, "Do you think you reincarnated how many ever times first? Then you level up to a different dimension. Each reincarnation, you knew more from the last."
So here's a funny thing.
Excellent point.
Okay.
Excellent point.
Josh and I have talked about this, and honestly, I totally agree with reincarnation. Um, I mean, there's too many documented cases where past life regression has been done on children, on many people, and it's funny. How can, let's say, a 4-year-old child remember certain things, and there was no way that that child was even, I mean, they've seen things that happen like on the other side of the world, and they knew things like the back of their
Mhm.
hand. And how is that even possible when they don't, they're too young to read. Um, they're too young to learn a map of specific locations, and they knew things. There's so many details that they point out. They can even point out names um, of people that are deceased. So there's too many documented cases that it's happened with. So it's hard to say that people haven't been reincarnated.
Well, and it's, I mean, it's the foundation of of different religions and faiths
Yeah, exactly.
around the world. I mean, it's not something, and in a very, again, generic, bland, basic version, science is even showing more and more that there is a conscious awareness after we leave our bodies. I mean, how many experiments have been conducted where subjects at the being called at the time of death, they are floating above their body, or they can see something in the next room. They come back to life. They call out that object or number that was behind a wall. There was no way they could have ever known that answer.
Right.
So how do you explain so many of these things? And these are the first few seconds to minutes after we pass. But it definitely makes you wonder, considering the communication that's been documented for decades. What we do know that's been conducted in somewhat of a scientific sense with these experiments, and what we know from many, and I'll say genuine psychics, empaths, and people who are intuitive. You start, taking these puzzle pieces and putting them together from a little bit of everything, and you start to realize there's something here. And I don't want to get more specific than that because I don't know. But again, just even considering string theory in 11 dimensions, let's talk about that. Which dimensions is time non-existent? And if someone was communicating from that dimension, how would we perceive it? So it's just interesting to get lost in that kind of thought. And again, just to stimulate the imagination, if not for anything else.
Yeah. Hey, Kirsty. Welcome from Scotland. I wish I was in Edinburgh. I just love Scotland so much. I had an opportunity to move there and I should have done it. Kick myself every day for not doing it. But anyway, that's my favorite part of the world. But anyway.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Gaynor. Kirsty.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a little backdrop with me. I mean, I was a huge skeptic when it came to ITC. You can ask Josh. I would give him shit because he had
Yes.
every single ghost box out there, from a very rare ghost box, you know, to even an SB7, I believe, and a couple
I
of
did, yes.
and a couple
Yes.
of shacks.
SB7 gets responses. Yeah.
Um,
Checks too, of
but
course.
and I would just sit there and just laugh at him. Um,
Yes, you did. I have not forgotten
I
about
would
that.
I would give him crap, and then I became, started getting some responses, and here we are. I'm trying to move. Then I started getting some other experiences. Now I'm like not even using the ghost box anymore. Um, Kind of doing other experiments. So
And that's important. I mean, because really that is what we're ultimately dealing with or researching is, as we've talked about, frequency and vibration, energy. We're looking into, how much of it has to do with our own atmosphere and our own environment. We've talked about that on the show in the past with free electrons in the ionosphere, the secrets of the mesosphere. Is there something that's being used there to help the communication or facilitate communication? I mean, there's so many variables. There are just so many things to consider.
there is so many. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But hold on, I'm going to show Spirit Vision ITC. What's your name, by the way, if I may ask? I'm going to talk about possession a little bit in a few minutes.
Well, their name's Spirit Vision ITC.
No, I know, but just as first name.
Well, maybe call them
Unless you want
Spirit.
to say anonymous.
Yeah,
I
that
just have a hard time, with nicknames. Just because I'm very personable. Anyway. All right, Nathan.
Nathan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Anyway, so I will talk about possession a little bit because I know a couple of people that are dealing with oppression. Now, oppression can lead to possession. It's actually can be the early stages leading to possession, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Oh yeah, no. How did I forget that? I'm sorry, Nathan. I mean, I'm really, really, really bad with names. Um, You can even ask Josh. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I'm so bad with names. I'll never forget a face, but names, uh, yeah. I
I'm
mean,
sure one
sometimes
day you're going to introduce the show and be like, and my co-host
I've
and
done
my co-host. Okay, let's start the show.
no, because I just get so, I mean, just being tied up with work and then hearing so many names. And I mean, literally, one of my coworkers, I sit next to him for years, and I looked at him to call him by his name, and uh, I was like, dude, I need your help with this. um, that's just how bad I am. I mean, I'm just so bad with names. Um, yeah, it's just dumb. Anyway,
PD, the SP7 is great. I don't want to knock any ghost box or spirit box. It was one of the first ones I had, and I got great responses out of it. Nothing wrong with it.
I've had, I don't know, a few SB7s, and I could use them for maybe 2 minutes, and then I throw them aside. But that's me. It's just
Yeah, depends on what equipment works for you.
they're a little harsh on my ears.
Sure. Yeah, objectively, right. Yeah, there's a lower signal to noise ratio than some other boxes, objectively, just factually. But depends on what you want to use. Some
No,
people are okay with it. Some people can listen to it for an hour and they're fine.
yeah, no, exactly right. It is.
Okay. You've got dementia, Rob.
It is dementia.
I better start taking over the Pair Awakening before you lose it. You hand it over to some young kid who doesn't know what to do with it.
No, exactly.
It's
But
okay, Gainer. I'm going to give him a hard time for that. Yeah, Carl, the S box, right? And that's got random on it too, which is really cool.
yeah, I mean, I have that little the S box clone, and that seems to work pretty well. And actually, it's really not that noisy. I can sit there and listen to it for a while. Actually, I broke it out today. I was just playing around with it and running it through random. Um, and it works pretty well. And I don't get very good signal here. Um, but I was getting a lot of responses today. It was kind of weird.
This is PD says I've dealt with oppression in recent months, possible possession in my teen years. No fun.
No, it's not fun. So this is one of the things, like when you're going to locations, um on several occasions, let's just say one location in particular that you go to, and you spend hundreds of hours in that location, and I'm not joking. Like the when I dealt with oppression, I was facilitating a jail that is no longer, a condemned building now. If you look it up, it's called Lincoln Heights Jail in LA, in Los Angeles. Actually, it's in Lincoln Heights, California. It's just a suburb of Los Angeles. And that was the first um, jail that was owned by LAPD, or Los Angeles PD. Um, anyway, so I was in that jail for like every other weekend, and I probably spent at least a couple of hundred hours there, at least.
Jeez.
I
Wow.
mean, I would go there in the morning, let's say 10 o'clock in the morning, leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, following day, go back the next day, go home, take a
Thank
shower,
you, Gainer.
get some sleep, go back, same thing. I was doing that for many, many months. It was probably over the span of a year and a half. Um, so I was spending a lot of time. I think I did document 204 hours, I think, is after I'd figured out how many hours I spent there. So it was about a little over 200 hours. Um, and towards the end, people started seeing changes in me. And I was so obsessed with that location to where I had to always, even if I wasn't going there for the day, I would have to drive by it. If wasn't scheduled to go and didn't promise somebody that I'd go and help them out or give a tour, whatever, I would go back. Even if the jail was closed, I would just do a drive by and or sit out in front of it and walk around. That's how obsessed I was.
Wow.
People started noticing a lot of changes in my attitude. I was having a lot of lucid dreams about the location. I was hearing voices from some of the spirits trying to get me to come visit them. Um, I was getting angry when I couldn't go. I mean, very angry. Um, I was suffering from major depression. Um, there was some suicidal thoughts after it closed down. Um, yeah, it was bad. It took me about 2 years to get over that depression. Um, yeah, and somebody had to intervene and keep me away from that going back, even just to drive by. Even if I was tempted, they knew where we were. They were like, "We are not going by the jail. You just need to keep on driving." So yeah, it was bad. Yeah, and I know a couple of people now that are dealing with that from another location. Um, and it's hard. And that's one of the dangerous things with the in the paranormal that nobody talks about.
It in that state of oppression, in your experience, how much self-awareness did you have? Were you aware?
Yeah, I was not aware.
There was no awareness at all that anything had changed. Had it not been for your loved ones or close friends around you to say, Rob, what's going on? You would have continued on that path and not thought anything abnormal
Nothing.
or unusual.
Nope. And a lot of times after I snapped out of it, like I was so angry, I was enraged. I mean, to where I caught myself and I was like, "What the hell?" I mean, I just literally blacked out. That's how enraged I was. Um, and it was scary even for me. I was like, "Holy crap." And for me going after somebody and I'm not like that. Um, yeah, it was scary. When I snapped out of it, I was like, "Holy shit, what am I doing?"
2 years.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to get over it, and that was hard. It was almost like a getting over a drug addiction. I've been through drug addiction, so I know what that's like also. Um, I think this was harder. For me, drug addiction was easy to get over. Same thing with quitting smoking cigarettes. I just said, "I'm not smoking anymore." I threw the pack in my console. It stayed there, and people were like, "Dude, I thought you stopped smoking." And I said, "I did." And they said, why is there a pack of cigarettes still here?" And they would go to throw it away. I would get pissed. And I said, "What are you doing?" That's my crux of I beat it. So until I throw it away, leave it there. I will throw it away when it's time to throw it away. That was just my I left it there. So if I'm tempted, I would say, "Nope, I'm not doing it." And that was what broke me of that temptation. So, um, yeah, but that was the oppression was harder than anything else that I've ever dealt with that I was addicted to.
Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah,
didn't know
no
that.
worries. But anytime somebody talks about possession, or they're telling me, that they were facilitating a location and they're having kind of like withdrawals and they're missing that location, they have to drive by it. And I tell them, do not do it. Do not do it. Whatever you do not do it. I don't care how bad you miss that location, how bad you want to go. If you're going to go, if you have to go with somebody else. Um, but don't linger around the location. You can drive by, wave, but do not linger.
Now, in terms of oppression that you have experienced and that we're talking about, this was the result of doing investigations, intentional investigations. You were consciously aware you chose to do this or start down this path. Can oppression happen indirectly? I mean, can someone just be going about their life and living their life normally, not essentially looking or having the intent or conscious awareness to investigate something, but still become oppressed by something? Is
Yeah,
that possible?
yeah, you can. It's called getting an attachment.
So someone who maybe is taking a tour, I'm just, they're on vacation with their family and they're just taking a tour of a library and just, oh, look at the old books and taking pictures and leaving and going to dinner, with no intent of looking for anything or even having the awareness to investigate something, they can still get an attachment and feel the oppression. And this could go on for years. Is that what I'm
they
to understand?
they can if they're open up to something like that. It all depends on intent. I mean, that's what we all talk about. It's always intent. And they can subconsciously be thinking about this. Yeah, the ghosts don't exist, or if they do, show
Right.
me that you exist, and who knows what they say. And so if you ever notice, well, certain people, certain teams, certain people that I investigate with, everybody has a closing prayer, and part of it is said, whoever's here needs to stay here. You're not allowed to follow me home. Blah blah blah. Everybody, has their closing prayer, and but if somebody intently says, you know what, if there's anything here, follow me home, or show yourself, or do something, um, and they walk away without saying anything, they've already invited that spirit that they are invited to follow that person, or attach themselves to that person.
Okay. So that there is the potential that there are people, innocent people, running around in this world that don't realize essentially that they could have some form of oppression
Oh,
or
absolutely.
some impact by something, and they had no intention of. Maybe
Absolutely.
they never even heard of the paranormal. It's still possible. Uh,
Absolutely.
Now,
Okay, now let's say a group of people, now somebody that has an attachment and isn't aware of it, goes to a location, and let's just say it's a little boy, right? Or let's just say it's a little girl. I'm just using kids as an example. Okay, I won't even use kids. Forget that. Scratch that. It's a
trying to
woman.
show innocence or something
Yeah,
that they're unaware of.
right. And that's why I
Sure,
was doing it. But you know what?
sure.
I'm not going to, because some people get offended by that.
Just
All right. Let's just
someone who's
say
unaware, right?
somebody that's unaware, they have an attachment of a woman. Okay. They go to a ship, a naval ship. Now, I'm using a woman because I know that this ship now has a female presence. So, a naval ship, who's not allowed on a naval ship? Well, this is back, let's say, during the World War II era. Even let's say the Korean War era, women weren't allowed on a ship. Period. So this World War II aircraft carrier has never had any women aboard. Nobody has ever died aboard there. That's a woman. But they host a lot of paranormal investigations there. All of a sudden now, this ship has a female spirit aboard. A lot of people are now experiencing her. Where does she come from? So what a lot of people will do is they have an attachment. They go back. They go to another location. All of a sudden now the spirit's like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. They stay there, unaware of the person that had that attachment. Now no longer has that attachment, and there you go. Now there's a new haunting. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think it happens all the time.
It does. Okay. And there are people that have, I mean, I can think of one person in my life who has, a really great life and haven't had any issues. They don't investigate the paranormal. They're not even interested in it. But after going on vacation, I remember one time and going to visit on a day tour, something very innocent,
Mhm.
historic locations, or one place that was purportedly haunted. And they texted me and said, hey, even though I don't really investigate, so to speak, they said, you'd be really interested in this place. I'm about to take a tour. And it was a period of time after that, and they didn't understand why. But I just noticed on the vacations, like, well, you're not as happy as I thought you would be being on vacation. And it seemed like they were just different for a period of time. And now I look back on that and I'm going, wow, what if he's just, meandering through there with his wife, taking pictures. Oh, this is a cool place. Okay. We got dinner afterward and they're just minding their own business. And there's something that attaches to them, creates this state of oppression for seemingly no reason. At least it seemed like. And I'm not saying that's what happened to him, but it makes me think or wonder, based on the communication I was getting from him and these places he was visiting.
Yeah. And just like what Petey said, when you do have oppression and you're suffering from it and unaware to you, you're taking things out on somebody else, and that I was guilty of it. That's how I found out about it. That's how, you know, she reached out to a close friend of mine and said, this is what's going on with Rob. And she said, he's suffering from oppression. And so I ended up talking to the person that explained this to my ex, and um, she sat me down. We talked, and she said, "You need intervention now." So she told me to stay away from anything to do with the paranormal until I got better. Um, and that's why I said it was hard because the paranormal at that. I mean, I was passionate about it, but I made a deal and I stuck with it. But like I said, it took 2 years. And it was hard because I was getting invited to go out to certain locations. I was, I mean, I was a leader of my group or my team, so they had to go without me. And do you know how hard that was? You know, knowing that people were going to these investigations without me, and knowing that I was the one that would always find the answers. So I had to work on the sidelines and kind of help them out. um just they would tell me what happened, and so I would have to sit down logically and think about it and say, well, did this happen? What did you guys get? Blah blah blah. And just like I said, sit like I was coaching from the sidelines, and it was hard.
Yeah, I can't see you enjoying that too much. That
No,
would be frustrating for you after
no, I mean,
2 years. Like one day, you're like,
Lot
oh man.
I was like, don't even talk to me about it." But unless it was something that really needed some attention, then I'll start saying, "Okay, ask this." And I'll start writing down questions on what to ask, and I would sit down and do the research.
And that was, that we talked about the Garden Grove investigation that you brought me on, my one and only, probably one of your biggest, synchronicity would have it. That was one of the concerns you shared with me, and that actually Eric, an experienced investigator, shared with me as well. Is they knew in terms of researching ITC, I was experienced, but in terms of actually going out into the world, leaving the sound laboratory and experiencing, the positive and negative, they said, you both were concerned about me because once you dip your toe into that water and you start investigating, you are accepting, again, despite your intent or your positivity or your vibration, there is still risk. I mean, there's positive and negative, dark and light in the world. And that was evident in that investigation. But I know that you both were concerned about me because you didn't want me to go back with an attachment. You and Eric had more experience dealing with these things. And I know that was a real concern. And it was a real concern for everyone involved in that case.
But but it doesn't matter on your experience level. And
Apparently not. Right.
everybody
Right.
is open to spiritual warfare. Um, I mean, that's basically that's what it is. Um, you always have that chance of getting an attachment that can lead to oppression and worst case scenario possession. Possession is very, very rare, um, but it can happen. And oppression is the beginning stages that can lead to possession.
I haven't experienced anyone who's purportedly been possessed. I
No,
know that.
I think oppression happens more, a little bit more. Um, I think it happens a little bit more than people would realize, but and sometimes it causes people um to suffer from some major mental illness and even suicide. And it's sad.
It seems like a discussion that's difficult for many. I know that a lot of the colleagues in the field that you've especially worked with, very close friends of yours, have had issues dealing with depression or witnessing someone else. I know we both know someone who's seen a possession
Mhm,
or experienced that or witnessed that. In
mhm.
fact, I believe you have. It isn't, or maybe you weren't with them at the time. I the details are. This was a long time ago, and I think it was might even been Eric might have been involved. But I know that it's not something anyone is comfortable talking about, and is very serious. And I certainly wasn't aware of it until I got a taste of. We talk about the yin and yang
You,
on an investigation.
experienced a possession.
I didn't. You know what? I'm not qualified to talk about that because my
No,
experience is in ITC,
I
but I wasn't sure, but I thought I did.
no, that was because I had to film it because we needed
Okay.
it documented. So yeah, but see, and that's the thing too. Too, Ben, is that a lot of people have intent to of calling somebody out or oh my god, what am I trying to say? Um Provoke. I've provoked something. It showed me who was boss, but it wasn't fun. I got taken down by my knees, down to a knee, because my bicep was being crushed. And that wasn't fun. But basically he just told me, I run this place, you're in my territory, and it happened, and I learned my lesson. I, said, I'm sorry, basically, and he released me. And he just said, "Get out," and I welcomed his wish. I would not go back in there. Um, but that's just the respect. I disrespected him. I got put in my place, and he told me to leave, so I did. I showed him. I just showed him, that I'm taking you know, uh, his word and what I promised him, and I walked out. So if I get an EVP, okay, so and this has happened and people were pissed. So here's the thing, when you set boundaries, it's with anything. You set a boundary when you start an investigation. You set, I respect you, you respect me, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I have an EVP session, during that EVP session, if I'm having an EVP session and I say, I'm not getting any answers during that EVP session. But all of a sudden, if I say, if you want us to leave this house, and pack up and leave for the night. Tell me to leave, and we will leave. And I put out the recorder, and what do I get? Yes, leave now. Play it back. Up, there's our answer. We got to pack up and leave. And people are like, you're effing kidding me right now.
The heck we are.
Exactly. And I said, no, I said, if you give us an answer and you want us to leave, we will pack up right now and leave if you tell us to leave. And it did. It said, yes. And I want you to leave. So I said, we got our answer. Everybody pack up your stuff. And I literally almost got into a fight over that with one of my investigators, because he was like, so we spent all of this time and energy to come out here for this investigation, and this is what we're leaving with? And I said, yeah, we have to. I set the boundaries. I'm respecting it. So we went back another 2 weeks later to continue the investigation, and we got so much evidence after that. I think because it showed that we respected its wishes, it saw that, and the next time we went, it was more cooperative. And that was probably one of the most interesting cases I've ever worked on. And for me doing, with all the cases that I've ever worked on, I think that was one of my most fun investigations. Just because of that turnaround.
So definitely more of an intelligence you were communicating with that was consciously aware of you being there, rather than a residual energy or time repeating itself, or just picking up on an echo through time, if you will. More of an intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It taught me a lot.
Right. Wow. I want to jump back here really quick. There was an interesting thought. Nathan, Spirit Vision ITC, says, do you think trying to communicate with spirits is a sin? This is a serious question for me, because as a Christian, I feel it may be wrong. And Rob, I can just give you my take on it. Rob, we've talked about this. We were both raised religious. We were both raised Christian, religious. I went to Catholic school. It's a very good question. I know that the Catholic faith or religion does not approve of ITC, as far as I know. And it's seen as we're possibly speaking to tricksters or demons that are tricking us. I don't believe it's a sin. I don't have a problem with it in that way. I have my own perspectives and views on religion, being raised religious and now kind of stepping out of that and being more spiritual. But my perspectives and opinions are important. But as a serious question, my answer to you is no, I don't believe it's a sin. It may be viewed as a sin by a few or a specific few. But again, that's, there are some stigmas with this type of communication that will always exist. People will always disapprove.
Yeah.
And say it's a sin. I personally, as someone raised in the Christian faith, attending Sunday school, going through confirmation, going to Catholic school, I still don't feel it's a sin.
Yeah. So here's the thing with that. So, and I think that's why ITC is a lot bigger in Europe than it is here in the States. And that's kind of what people have told me that do a lot of ITC research in Europe. Because the way that the Christian religion is taught here in the US, it's totally different than it is back in Europe. A lot of things here we're taught it's either heaven and hell, Jesus and the devil, and everything that is not in the Bible is a sin. So whether it's spirit communication, whether it's ghost hunting, they think that we're dealing with demons. So yeah, anything to do with the spiritual realm is a sin. That is considered a sin.
But yet in the Bible or in so many different writings or in forms, doesn't God or the Word say that our loved ones are closer than we think? That they're always in our heart, that we can always, they're always around us. In some form or fashion, heaven is just around the corner, but yet we can't communicate with it. There's so many contradictions.
Well, and hence, and that's where the Satanic religion comes into play. So the Satanic religion has nothing to do with the devil, has
Right.
nothing to do
Right.
with worshiping the devil. The Satanic uh, religion is a mockery of the Christian faith. It's a mockery of, it's making fun of the Christian religion and the hypocrisy that is embedded in the Christian religion. That's what Satanist is. That's what the Satan. That's what Satanist. Um, yeah, that's what they talk about. It's so it's always evolving. So the Satanic Bible is always evolving. It's all science based. So so it's always evolving. So it changes all the time. Um, anyway, that's yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's just my opinion. I know, Rob, we share the same opinion. It's just an opinion. It's just my opinion. I'm kind of the opposite. I don't believe it's a sin. In fact, I believe it's a gift. I see it as a miracle. I see it as a way to better know ourselves in this three-dimensional world. We talked about dimensions. And I tend to look at life a little more optimistically and positively. That's why a lot of organized religion, especially when I went to Catholic school, a lot of the verbiage and the overtone didn't vibe with me. It was very negative. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. It's like, well, what about the good stuff? Like, can we be positive for a second? Going to mass during the school week was like, okay, I got this test, and then I got to go to mass and listen to some guy tell me I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
Come on. I thought religion was, love yourself, be positive, love your neighbor, have passion for life, enjoy life. It's short, but then we live forever. Where's the positivity? And I think that's why when I heard ITC, or I witnessed it for the first time and knew there was something genuine behind it, I saw it immediately as a miracle. I saw it as a gift. And that's just how I view it. That's just my personal view.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like, so with me posting this right now, so we had somebody coming on our show a while back. It was about, I don't know, a couple of months ago,
Ben,
maybe. Um, so somebody came on and asked if I believed in God, and did he say that? He said something like that, which is a stupid remark. And I said no, and I said, "Hail Satan." Um and, um and
is that
and basically, oh, he told me that I was going to hell. And so that's why I said no, that I don't believe in God. And and that's when I said hail Satan. And after that, I think he just bailed. Um, but it was just a spoof. I mean, it's like, what the hell? Why are you coming on my show and saying that? You know what I mean? And it was stupid. Um, but it was just funny. I mean, I had to do it. And I said, look, you know what? I've gone to a lot of satanic rituals held by um TST, which is the temple, the Satanic Temple of Los Angeles. And I went to a few of their events.
do
And
they have snacks and hors d'oeuvres?
oh no, I mean, there was beer and alcohol. But
Any coffee?
there was, yeah, I mean, actually, and Red Bulls.
Black coffee.
Oh, black coffee, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
No cream or sugar at these events. It's black coffee.
Yeah, I mean, and it was cool. I mean, some of the nicest people I've ever met were there. I mean, that I've met were there. And yeah, it was an amazing event. And I've was invited back to several more after that. And then the funny part of it was, my son
Ben.
my son went with us. It was Eric and myself, and we brought my son along with us. And he walked in and he goes, "Holy crap!" And he knew the DJ. So uh, he was like, "Yeah, I've been to a bunch of his parties." So
Oh wow.
they were talking, and actually, the DJ was part owner of that club that we went to. They always held it in like these warehouses, but they were
Right.
sponsored events. It was amazing. The events were amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, and that's why there's so many stereotypes on so many things in the paranormal and with ITC. I tell you, Rob, there was a breaking point for me where, and I can kind of speak against the Catholic faith or religion here and Christian faith because I was born and raised in these religions. I mean, very heavily. They were intertwined in my life, and I got so tired of hearing about the devil and demons and these things. And when science are presenting these theories like string theory, M theory, particle theory, and you're considering alternate dimensions and communication, I got so tired of these man-made constructs. Maybe they exist, maybe they don't. That's not what I'm saying, but I got so tired of hearing about the negativity and these Hollywood-esque dramatic situations, or if you don't do this, you're going to hell, and the devil. I want to know what else is out there. Forget the lower dimensional. I want to know what else is going on in these dimensions. I want to know where this communication is coming from. But that's what really sparked my interest in ITC, and that's where a lot of the communication that's been documented over the decades haven't recorded anything about the devil or demons or a pit of fire. You think about the ITC pioneers and what they've documented and recorded. It's been cooperation. Look at Marcello Bacci. Connecting people, hundreds of people in a room, connecting them to their loved ones, getting communication back about cooperation. That love is the answer and the key, and that love is always present in there. That's what I want to find out about. That's what I want to know. And those stereotypes just seem to cloud the perception of ITC and what we're doing. Saying it's a sin. No, it's not a sin. This is a gift.
Yeah.
This is not. It's never really had a chance in mainstream culture, and I don't know that it ever will because of these religious overtones or because of the negativity that's being placed on this type of research or communication. When in reality, I think it's quite the opposite. I think if anything, in a very real, measurable sense, objectionably, I mean, we can measure the sound coming out of the speakers. These intelligent voices can be measured. We can we can observe them. Sorry, it's getting late. So we can observe these voices. That is the gift. That is the connection. I feel like a lot of people are just lumping that in with something it shouldn't be lumped in with. Oh, Lisa, is that you, Live Paranormal?
Yeah, I think it is. Ben, it wasn't Vanilla Sky, it was Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. Yes, it was a lot like that. Just not as elegant. Yes, there's a lot of sexual things going on. But yeah, it's kind of part of the ritual. But yes, it was pretty cool. But it was a lot like that. Yes, it was invite only. So when you got there was like these, couple of um big guys out there with suits on, and you had to show them your invite. And the funny thing is, you wouldn't know where the location was. You would get a text like at 8 o'clock at night, um, where the location was, and basically the doors opened at 11 o'clock. So yeah, you would get a text, and then you're like, okay, we know where it's at. Let's go. And then yeah, we would go.
Rob, you have a question from Nathan.
Where?
I'll let you.
Oh, You know what? It did cross my mind. I do have a couple of ideas, but I would have to talk to somebody that would write the program. I'm just not a programmer, but it has crossed my mind, especially with what I'm working on now. It would play hand in hand with what I'm working on right now. So I have some ideas. So if anybody's a programmer out there and wants to get in contact with me, please do.
I'm doing coding, but not for the type of coding you are looking for.
And somebody asked if we're going to go live later. No, we go live on Saturday nights to do communication. I'm sorry, I'm just answering that question now. We just got a little um
Yeah, the Saturday show is our live show, or Rob's live show, that with the intention of conducting live ITC sessions to find out what type of information we receive. And as always, we state we can't guarantee any type of communication, any type of connection to a particular person, entity, thing, place, and time, anything. We're just experimenting. It's open for your interpretation.
yeah, exactly.
PD, that's a fantastic comment. PD says much of theology is man-made philosophy, Josh. I did 3 to 4 years of Episcopal seminary. Theology becomes too complicated. PD, and yeah, and you know, I was speaking strictly from my experience. I know everyone has their own experience, but I'd be very interested in your perspective, especially considering the devotion and dedication you spent the 3 or 4 years of your life in seminary, and now you're being involved with ITC. What is your perception of this? I'd be very interested to find that out. I can tell you a lot of my friends that I went to Catholic school with, who are devout Catholics, are very religious and are very passionate about their faith, don't understand what I'm doing, but yet they know my heart. They know I'm a good person. They know my intentions. So I think I have in many ways convinced them that the effort is noble and it's of love and compassion. But I don't think I don't talk about these subjects with them. You know what I mean? We compartmentalize subjects because I know how they feel about it, but at the same time, they know who I am. So I think in the back of their mind, they're going, maybe there is something to this.
So why don't we do this? Let's talk a little bit about what happened on the show on Saturday night.
Oh, very good.
Night. I know that, we should do recaps of the Wednesday or the Saturday night show on here, and maybe we will. It was fun to have Josh. I think right now I'm going to just call him out right now. So Josh, you're going to be needed every Saturday night on the show.
I'm being promoted?
You're being promoted.
I'm being promoted? Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, guys, I'm being promoted. This is excellent. Live on air. Oh, I'm so excited. And I won't be late this next time. I didn't know. I thought you just wanted me on the chat. Oh, I'm excited. Yes, thank you, Carl. Thank you for reminding me again I was late. Carl's very efficient at reminding me of my tardiness. I'm sorry, Carl. I know. See, look at this. Jeez.
So if you want to get into that a little bit, I'm gonna run and grab my drink. I'm like dying of thirst, and I am so hot in here. So
get your drink. Go get your drink.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Sorry, guys.
Well, I was at the last Saturday show, so we can.
If you guys wanted to take an intermission, and I can play some music, and Josh can go hit the restroom real quick or whatever.
Excuse me, I am a co-host. I can manage the show. I've built up some experience over the last few.
Mess with them.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't think I could run the show. So anyway, now that Rob is gone, it's trash talk, Rob. Anyway, the past Saturday show was really remarkable, and in fact, of all the Saturday shows I've sat in chat or witnessed, it was incredible. The energy was on point. Everything seemed to align. At least in my opinion, we had some incredible situations. We had the radio turn off and come back on. A lot of activity Rob experienced in the room. Obviously, we can't directly experience that, but if you've witnessed a Saturday show and you know how Rob reacts to evidence or seen things, Rob doesn't jump out of his chair that often, and he didn't this time, but there were still some situations in the room where he felt vibration, felt his hand being touched, he was hearing frequency. And I really think it has to do with the energy of the group show. I feel like the intent, the manifestation of that energy and that desire to communicate really has made that Saturday show powerful. And Rob has continued with it at the same time, the same Saturday, almost every Saturday. I think Rob's only missed 2 shows. So I think that has a lot to do with it. If anyone wants to hear the results, it's on YouTube. In fact, it's the previous show right behind this one. You can check it out. All 2 to 3 hours are on there. I know a few people wanted to hear the clips of Rob's evidence, stating he got, as Rob would describe, we don't know how to describe it, but maybe a hierarchy of communication, or Rob is hearing from a different level. However you want to classify it, that evidence is on there. And we've also had previous shows where he's displayed that evidence as he's gotten it. Yeah, Ben, it might be worth watching. It's a long show. I mean, it requires a lot of time. We might have some highlight points on there or some timestamps to go right to the main part of the show. Are you comfortable now, Rob? Are you happy?
I am now.
Oh, well, excellent. You know what? I can't give you a hard time. You just promoted me to the Saturday show, so
it's a little frozen, but so good.
Yeah, King, and that's what's. Rob and I talk about this all the time, and we're trying to increase the potential of our technology. We're trying to create things that will help in communication. We're looking at AI and machine learning and different things, and yet the biggest impact I've noticed is from all of you and from all of us together with our intent and manifestation. More than any technology, no matter the technology, it seems like it's been that group show or that Saturday show has really been the most important variable to such successful communication. Oh, Live Paranormal, Lisa is saying she's going to Lizzie Borden house for investigation. Suggestions for evidence at higher level.
Hold on, I got a brain freeze.
Is there anything else you need, Rob? Do you want to go get some snacks and come back? I mean,
no.
Do you need a break or something?
No, I'm good. I would probably.
Right, Carl.
Here's the thing. I always only do, well, if I'm going to do any type of communication, I never, and Josh even knows this, and Josh, I think, even suggests this, never use a ghost box during an investigation. Always just use a recorder of some sort for if you're going to do any type of ITC work, only use a recorder. There's already enough chaos during an investigation that you don't want to add to that chaos. And also using a radio during an investigation creates a lot of contamination for other evidence and other investigators that are trying to gather data. This is why I suggest never to use a ghost box during during an investigation, because of those reasons. If you have to go back, let's say you go to this location multiple times, I would probably do it on one of the last investigations that I have planned on going back to that location as a final tool. But during the most of the gathering information or gathering evidence, I always suggest do not do it. I mean, even with me working in the jail for as many hours as I did, I probably used a ghost box and an app using the Echo Vox in maybe the last 20 hours. So it was probably a full weekend. My final full weekend there is when I finally used that and got some more key evidence. It was actually solidified some evidence that I gathered from doing ITC, from doing an ITC session using a recorder or an EVP session.
The infamous one investigation I've been on with you, Rob, that transpired over a year or so.
Yeah, when did I say that it was okay to use a ghost box? I never let you use one
I was, yeah.
Until later.
Yes, not only later, but it was not only later on in the investigation, but you left at one point and I broke it out almost like, oh, the teacher left, you know, can break out my, you know, video games on my phone or something. You know what I mean? It was, and I'm just admitting that now, but I understand now though, especially the location we were in. I wasn't using the ghost box with headphones. I wasn't really able to isolate the sound coming from the ghost box. What happened was, in fact, I was using the black box, the AGB X3. We talked about it the other night. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have a line out, it has a speaker, but the problem was this house had terrible acoustics. And a lot of the furniture had been removed, so everything was reverberating. You know, there were so many reflections off the walls, so words that would be flying at you, you couldn't tell, you know, if it was cat, bat, hat. It was very, very difficult to hear, especially in this location. And I found it more distracting. Mm-hmm. You know, I was trying to go from room to room to find good room acoustics because, again, I didn't have a line out. I couldn't listen with my headphones. The recorders were tied up in the moment. It just became more of a hassle, and I was concentrating on how do I isolate this sound rather than investigating the area. So for me, in that one instance, I found it disadvantageous to use a ghost box in that location. Like you said, until the end, when we had got to know the location, become more familiar with the energy or spirits that were there, some became more comfortable with us. There was obviously different side to that with you know, some negative energy that was there later on. But there was times or places where it was effective, but maybe for a short period of time. I don't know, maybe it depends on the location, the specifics, but I found that to be one of the last tools I wanted to use. And you were right. I mean, I feel like we captured more evidence quietly with a recorder or some of your even video equipment compared to a ghost box, especially with so many of the people talking in the house and trying to run their own investigations. It just got to be too chaotic.
Yeah, like I said, it creates too much chaos. And if you want to make some enemies really quick, break out a ghost box during an investigation.
Lisa,
it's just because the history of the tool, that's not what it was designed to really do. It's designed to communicate with spirit, but in a different sense. Yeah, so gathering information from an investigation, I just think it's a little bit different.
And a lot of people are going to disagree. I mean,
no,
everyone I can,
and I agree. I mean, I understand that, but if you follow my logic, and if you try to gather information, and you see that, you will see that you'll get more information. That spirit will provide you with information. They're gonna, if they want to contact you, they want to communicate with you, they're going to communicate with, whether it's a ghost box, whether it's a recorder, you're going to get your answers no matter what. I mean, I've gotten probably the best evidence just from my video recorder, because they're imprinting that, their voice, you know, when you're recording, when you're talking, you know, I mean, you have to think it's a recorder. You're going to get, when you're asking questions, you're walking around, you're talking, they can even use their vocals to manipulate that to get whatever they need to say across. It doesn't matter what type of tool it is. I'm just saying, because of the chaos that's already there during the investigation, that's why you don't want to use a ghost box there. And if you do it when, you know, later during the investigation, not right up front. Because if you are getting false positives, it's going to give you false positives for some of the answers that you're trying to find during that investigation. Now, if you get some other communication on other medium or media that is relevant to that ghost box session, then hey, you know what? That's cool. But like I said, you want to do it later in the investigation because the earlier parts of the investigation are seem like to be the most important. Now, if you're trying to gather, if you're not getting anything and you have to go back multiple times, a lot of people don't get that chance to go to locations multiple times. So, um, anyway,
Well, yeah, and I wonder how much, I thought about this. When you're first showing up in an investigation, you have your own personal contact field, your own level of consciousness and energy that you bring to the investigation and your contact field. So when you show up, are you just communicating with your contact field before something else enters it? I don't know. I do know that our opinion is very unpopular. Most of our very close colleagues will use ghost boxes all the time on investigations. I don't know that anyone else feels the way we do about them. And I love ghost boxes. I love ITC, but I'm with Rob in the sense that the false positives and the issue with your contact field showing up to a location, I don't know. And maybe everyone's different. Maybe there is a connection to the location and the spirits there that can happen immediately and they can enter your contact field and start communicating. That's possible. And I'm sure some of our colleagues would argue that and be very disappointed in our response. But what I've experienced, it was just too chaotic to really focus energy and intent and concentration on an ITC session, especially ghost box, when you have answers and responses flying at you constantly, when you're distracted with so many other things. I think it depends on the situation, but by and large, yes, Rob, I tend to agree with you on that.
well, I mean, it's because the way that I started investigating, you know, many years ago, it was totally different. We had audio everywhere. So there was
Right.
no need for anything else. And the audio that you would get was freaking crazy, incredible. Especially when there was, a couple of reel to reels going, there was a lot of, and everything was analog then too. So, I know that, people talk about the DR60 and, you know,
Yeah, Nathan, you
you
don't
don't,
need the DRCC.
no.
Not at all. It's an interesting little infamous device and has kind of the perfect storm of everything wrong with it. I think it has potential in theory to be an awesome ITC device, the way it stores its information through a particular type of kelp codec, which is a linear predictive programming codec. I think Spirit might be able to manipulate that. At the end of the day, it's still spitting out information to you at 6.6 kilohertz, which it only records up to about 3 kilohertz of the human voice. It's not very intelligible. It's not very clear. And most responses are argued by investigators. I heard cat. I heard bat. I heard hat. I heard lawn fertilizer. I mean, you get so much ambiguous responses from this that it by and large, the scientific community, if they're going to look at evidence from us, they will never consider the DR60. I've talked to scientists and people that are light years ahead of me in terms of experience with sound and understanding this field, and they would never consider it because the ultimate output quality is so poor.
Yeah. Ben, cassette recorders is the best. Analog recorders is the best um, type of device you can ever use for uh, EVP sessions.
If you can keep it analog, and with analog, you have to pay even more attention to gain staging. But if you can set up your analog recording device properly, again, reel to reel, and you can isolate the sound from the mechanism or the motor, you can capture some amazing EVPs.
Yep.
But you're not limited to that. There are some great digital recorders that you can
No,
spend.
no. I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying, if you can get everything set up right, and if you can isolate, the best way to isolate the sound of the motor from the recorder too, and once you have it all set up, and you start hanging uh mics from the ceiling and drop them down, um Oh my god, and you have everything set up perfect, you will not hear more cleaner sound and responses from a cassette recorder. Oh my god, I there's so many I have so many tapes that I converted quite a few that I just lost, I just found. So I might have to reconvert those cassette tapes to um back to files, back to WAV file. Um but yeah, if you get it all set up right, oh, there's no you'll never go back to a digital recorder.
Right.
Um but anytime I did a lot of investigating, I still had like a couple of analog recorders that I would take. They're bulky. You have to take a crap load of cassette tapes with you, but and you always have to flip the tape also. That's always a pain in the butt. Um
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you only have 30-minute record time.
guys, don't bring reel to reel machines if you're going on an investigation.
I
Okay,
I'm talking about, when I was working with scientists that were there and, parapsychologists were there, that's what they would bring. And I was
no,
like, are you kidding me right now? But no, that was
okay. If you have the time and resources and money, it's going to take money to run analog machines and keep them tuned up, keep them quiet. If you want to go down that route, you'll get some amazing evidence. But the tender love and care that an analog reel to reel machine needs, and the process by which to store those. Remember, you got to have storage for all of this. You've got to carry it from investigation to investigation. So while yes, it's worth experimenting with, just keep in mind, know where you're investigating. If there's going to be a lot of stairs or there's not places to set up, it could be more advantageous to run a digital recorder. There was a question that says, I believe it said, Carl, you're right about the DR60. Yes, it has in theory some good principles for ITC in terms of the way it captures audio and stores it and then spits it back out to you. But yeah, the quality is it's horrible, and no one agrees on what's being said. But there was a question, I'm trying to think who's asked it, Rob, about why does there seemingly seem to be information that's lost from the analog to digital process? That could be a whole show into itself. But again, we are taking an analog waveform and transforming it to zeros and ones. And depending on the chips used, on the theory used to decode that, there could be information lost. There have been methods in recent years, probably in the last decade or so, where direct stream digital, there's been different methods to try and duplicate a digital signal as close to analog as possible, where DSD samples, instead of at 16-bit or 24-bit, it samples at 1 bit, but the sampling frequency is much, much, much higher. So it tries to capture digitally as close as it can to an analog waveform. But by and large, again, our world is analog, and capturing it in analog and having some great responses in analog is amazing. But you have to remember the digital realm is a way to capture that and then use computers to analyze and do different things at speeds that we couldn't do, with anything analog.
Hold on, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Petey, picking up a signal on digital is not rare. And in fact, the as they say, the duality of the universe. In fact, I didn't get to this, but some of the other higher dimensions we were going to talk about, when there's no physical form and it's just energy, there seems to be a duality of that information is stored in zeros and ones at higher dimensions. There's a theory that information is stored in zeros and ones. And I believe spirit can manipulate zeros and ones, because we're just talking about a logic gate opening up and closing to select 0 and 1. And as long as there's a voltage there that has to move that logic gate to manipulate a 0 or a 1, that voltage could be manipulated by spirit, in theory.
Can you guys see my screen?
Oh, the 4100. I think that maxes out at 192.
This is one of the best recorders you can buy, and it is digital. This one is actually up on eBay right now. I just searched eBay, and it's, I think, only 15 bucks.
Oh, really? Wow. They used to be like 40 to 60.
Yeah, I had I had about 12 of them at one point, and I would give them away to people that didn't have a recorder.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
I'm down to, oh, I went to look in my bag. I didn't have any. Um, so yeah, I bought a couple more over the last few months probably. Um, but yeah, I just looked them up and there's still some on eBay. There, if you go on there, you'll find that one that I just pulled up. Just wanted to share that with you guys. They're
Yeah,
like $15.
that recorder will record in LP mode, 8 kilohertz, and I believe it'll go up to 16, 12 in like SP mode, maybe 16 kilohertz in high quality mode. I think it saves in like MP3 192, I believe. But that recorder has a good mix of white noise in terms of generating a noise floor, and at the same time having voices come through, pretty clearly. Yeah, Roland. Okay, Roland. Now you're talking my language. A Nagra handheld recorder will record in 24-bit, 96 kilohertz, 192 kilohertz, high definition recordings. The EVPs you get super clear. You can hear the answers very easily. Less ambiguity than a low bit rate, low sample rate recorder. Sony has some great high end recorders. And if money is no object, you guys, and you want a portable recorder, you need to get a sound devices. Sound devices mix pre 3 or mix pre 6. You're looking at about $600 to $1,000, but the dynamic range on these recorders is so high, you can crank up the gain and pick up the faintest of sounds and hear them crystal clear. It's a major investment, but it's an investment that if I had to get anything right now, analog recording gear, digital recording gear, anything, I would get a super killer, cardioid condenser, or maybe a different polar pattern. I'd have to think about it, but I'd be running a sound devices unit just to capture absolutely everything in detail at a location. Yeah, Tascam DR05 will record in 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. Got pretty quiet preamps.
I have one of those brand new in a box right there. It's up on my shelf. I never broke it out.
Yeah, and let's be very clear. You can capture EVP on anything, absolutely anything. If there's free will and spirit wants to leave that message, you're going to capture it. So it also comes down to the equipment that you're comfortable with, that you like. There's certain equipment that's going to give you clear responses and others that won't be so ambiguous. But listen, ITC is the type of field where an instrument almost becomes subjective or personal to the person. To say something's better than the other or is the best is very difficult, especially with something where we don't have all the answers to.
The Zoom, I really don't care for Zooms. I had quite a few. I never had really much luck with them. Here was the thing. So
yeah, that's right, Carl.
So on that recorder that I just posted up, the 4100 the what is it?
The 4100. The PC had the USB connection.
Yeah. So it's Olympus 4100 PC. Anyway, so we were aboard the Enterprise, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I had that recorder, and two other people had DR60s, and they were laughing at me like, "Oh my god, you carry one of those piece of crap recorders?"
Meanwhile, they bought their DR60 for $1,800.
No, exactly. And I said, "Oh, this recorder will catch more EVPs than your DR60s will." And I said, "I'll bet you $100." And I even pulled out $100 onto my wallet and slapped it down.
Woo!
And
player,
just because these guys are kind of being like cocky,
right?
And so I just slapped on $100 and said, put your money where your mouth is. We'll go to every location we stop in and we do an EVP session. We're going to do burst sessions of 5 questions. We'll do playback. Let's see who gets the most responses. And so we would put them we'd stand in there and hold it in our palms. And we'd just sit there. And so we would all stand, put them like next to each other and say, okay, we're going to have, there was a couple of people walking with us. There were docents, and it was me and the other two guys. And they're like, okay, so the docents would ask the questions and they would do playback. Every single time we got an EVP or we did it, I would always get an EVP. They got nothing. And then they're like, how in the hell are you getting all these responses and we're not getting anything? And I'm like, I'm telling you, this recorder is freaking amazing. And yeah, by the end of the night, yeah, they both had to pay me $100. So,
Wow.
and I said, here, as a consolation prize, I threw them each a recorder.
Wow, Rob, laying down the bet, and then you're like, here, amateurs, have a recorder. Woo! There you go. You're coming in a little too hot.
It was funny.
Coming in a little hot.
But no, it was funny. It's just because, I know how that recorder works, and it's just an amazing recorder. I've always had great luck with it. I've had, expensive recorders, and it was either me using that recorder or me using a cassette recorder with an external mic that were calibrated, and they worked great. So yeah, those were my two go-tos.
Yeah, and I think those, especially with Olympus, a lot of their recorders, they have a decent noise floor where, one would argue it has enough noise or white noise to produce stochastic resonance, essentially to amplify those weak signals so the EVPs can be heard clearly, but they're also exported just high enough to where they're outside of that, 6.6 kilohertz, 6-bit or 8-bit sampling range. It's a little bit better than, let's say, the DR60. And let's face it, the DR60 has the Kelp codec, and it has a DAC that's faulty. There's a lot of issues with the timing and the clocking. So you will get some amazing responses on the DR60 if, again, you can differentiate what's being said, if it's intelligible. But it does seem to proliferate a lot of EVPs. But the Olympus seems to have those, at least a lower fidelity recorders that have lower sample rates. The Olympus seems to produce them a little bit cleaner. Now, there are some Sonys, the ST25, the B7, the B16, B25, B26, those in particular will get some really good recordings.
Yeah, the IDC devices, like the one that PD's talking about, that was a great little recorder. Mm-hmm. Some of their newer models, God, I forget the model numbers. IDC, I want to say 80, and then it was their 200 series were both amazing.
Oh, like PD saying the BX112. I know the BX200. There were a few PD that those Sonys actually were really good. And in fact, people give Ghost Adventures or a lot of those shows a hard time for being produced and scripted and everything's fake. But guys, they use some really good recorders.
Oh, no, they did.
Not all their evidence is fake. They were using the 4100s. Nick Groff was using it, and he was getting some really impressive EVPs. Those weren't fake. Those were real EVPs.
Yeah, no. When Nick was using the 4100,
yeah, thing was a monster.
It was basically, it was funny because when I met them, and I did their show, I had a 4100 in my pocket, and I pulled it out, and Nick like nudged me and said, "Dude, you're using the same recorder that I use." And I said, "Wait, what?" And I didn't realize that they were using the same recorder. And I said, "Dude, I got like 3 of these." And then he started laughing. And I said, "Dude, I said, I just realized that you were using the same recorder. I thought it was, but I thought it might have been a later model." And he said, "No, that's the one." And so I ended up buying a dozen of them. I mean, literally, I would just go to eBay, and anytime I saw them for $10, I would freaking jump on it. Because after I bought like 12, 13, something like that, they
shot up the price.
They started going for like $150.
Dude, I remember seeing a used one that looked like it had been dropped down like a 5,000-foot cliff. It's like $69. It's like, what? This thing probably doesn't even turn on. And they were selling. You couldn't. They were triple digits.
If you found them brand new in the pack or in their because they came in a bubble pack.
Right.
If you found, or a blister pack, if you found them sealed in a blister packs are the plastic hard shelling case.
Right.
You have to get scissors and cut them out.
Clamshell packaging. Yeah.
Package. Anyway, if you found them in that condition, you're paying $200 easy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Grab them right now while you can. If you find them for $10, $12, $15. I mean, that one I just posted was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of them on there for like that price. I would jump on them.
Right. Petey, that's a great point. That the ICD BX112, I've used one. I used to own one. I forgot maybe I sold it or traded it with someone, but that's an excellent recorder. Again, just to kind of cap off the Ghost Adventures discussion, say what you want, but the guys, Nick, Zach, and Aaron had the low fidelity recorders recording in a low bit rate and sample rate, and they were getting good responses. And then when they brought the sound guy Jay in, I don't know if anyone noticed, Rob, but he had a selection of dynamic and condenser mics hooked up to a sound devices unit, which sound devices for portable units, they rival some of the in-studio units in terms of their A to D conversion and mic preamps. He was getting some really high fidelity sound. So
basically, because Jay at that time was their sound guy, and he used to have, that bag that had the audio equipment in there.
Yeah, the sound devices bag. Yeah.
So he had the sound devices bag, and then he would have the boom mic, and then he had Nick and Zach and Aaron, they all had lapel mics on, and then they would mic you also, so you would have a lapel mic on. But yeah, that's what he was using.
Yeah, and again, I'm not, I know a lot of people will say it's all scripted, it's all faked, it's all produced, but
I mean, at that time, they were using a lot of digital recorders,
right? But
they didn't start. They did a lot of scripting later in the later episodes, and then that's when they started using like DR60s. They started using, a lot of different equipment. So things changed, and it was the same thing with Ghost Hunters. Things changed.
Well, they were using the Zoom H4n. I know that was a staple recorder, and I'm not a fan of Zoom because of the noise floor on the preamps. That's just me. Yeah. They're fine if you guys use them. A lot of people use them. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying objectively they're a little noisy for my taste, but they were recording in CD quality sound or better on their shows, and they were capturing some pretty good stuff. I don't think it's all faked, meaning I think real EVPs come through. We know they do. Yeah, the Zoom, what was it? The 2H? It was the one that had the H2N. The H2N. Right. That was basic because that's what a lot of musicians use. Right. So the way that it's set, and the way it's set on you put it on a tripod, and the way that the mics are set up, they're set up in a polar position, right? Yeah. So the polar pattern was set up where you could do the mic capsules were, I believe, front and back, and then you could activate a mid side. Yeah. And do a full 360 room recording. So those actually weren't bad. I mean, I used to use those as static mics. So if I was miking, and that's what we used at the location that we were at. If you noticed, I had those set up, one up on the mantle, a couple in the bedrooms. So yeah, I would set those up, but the only way that you got good sound out of those is you had to record in wave format. Correct. Uncompressed audio. If you compressed it, it sounded like garbage, and you never got anything. So there's a way to set up the mics and set up the recorder settings on that to get good results. I'm not being critical. If you have a Zoom, it's going to work. You're going to capture EVPs fine. You're going to be like, that guy Josh doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm being very picky as an audio engineer that the noise floor is a little high, but who knows? Maybe that higher noise floor helps stochastic resonance and helps them leave a response. What do I know? I'm just kind of giving you the real objective details of that. But Rob, you're right. That H2N set up properly was probably one of the Zooms I would recommend.
Yeah, that's the only one that I would recommend.
Yeah.
So Ben, when did it get discovered? The DR60? The DR60 was made famous by the Constantinos. Back in 2004. Was it 2004?
Yeah. And do you know how they found out about it? Well, Rob, as you know the story, when that recorder was first released and the general public was buying this recorder, again, it was the first commercial mass-produced consumer A to D converter inside of a recorder, taking analog and storage. What's that?
It was only like $35.
Right, when it came out, right. And people were getting it, and people were using it just for everyday things. Like, okay, go to the market, get milk and eggs, go pick up this from Johnny's school, or go do this. And they were getting these voices coming back to them. And they're going, I didn't record that voice. Whose voice is this? And they were, everyday people who don't know about the paranormal or EVP were, calling Panasonic and going, I'm getting these voices come through here and I don't know where they're coming from. So Panasonic said, okay, send it back. This is where the issue of the dual serial number, the FD or the FF, comes in. And I want to let you guys know Panasonic never changed anything. The FD is the same as the FF. I've measured it. I've taken actual objective measurements with scientific equipment. They didn't change any chips. They didn't change the DAC. They didn't change the codec. They didn't change the A to D. They didn't change any of the timing, the clocking, transistors, nothing. Okay, they tried to make a few adjustments in the internals. They found out they hit a brick wall. They couldn't really adjust the recorder. So they slapped a new serial number on it and sent the new ones out the next year. There's nothing different between FD and FF. I've worked and had several FDs and FF serial numbers. They're the same. They all capture the same evidence. They all have the same issues with the codec, with the denouncer, with the DAC. It's the same recorder. But Panasonic basically, after they couldn't fix this recorder for 2 years, they said, well, we've got to release a new recorder. They dropped the Kelp codec. They went to a more standard A to D converter, and that's how you got the QR100, the QR200, and the QR400. And then those recorders essentially made the DR60 obsolete. And those recorders don't have that issue. If you've used them, they record more like a 4100 Olympus or a Sony B7 or B26. They don't have that stall, if you will, or they don't have the voice activated recording that helps create that stall.
When you get responses, it's
right, exactly. Yeah, it completely, the QR100, the QR series is way different than the DR60. And I know a lot of people that if they use those recorders, a lot of them prefer the QR100 and 200. It has the white noise that's generated like the DR60, but it's smoother in operation. It kind of ironed everything out. And it doesn't use the Kelp codec, which I think is a blessing and a curse for the DR60.
Yeah, I bought 2 DR60s back in 2010, maybe. I think one for 50 and one for like $70 on eBay. Yeah, and I ended up selling them each for like $100 because this recorder is crap.
Right.
It was just so noisy. And anybody that uses them, I mean, you could tell it's recording the internals. I mean, it's just bad. And I'm like, I just want to get my money back basically. And I just posted them both up for $100 and sold them. Took a while. I mean, they sit up there on eBay for a while. I wanted to say at least 20 days or more.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you can find them all the time at that point because they weren't very popular.
Right. Right. Roland says the Zoom H1N here never caught EVP with it. That's interesting, Roland, because I've actually heard people that have had that recorder that have said the same thing, that they haven't captured much with the Zoom.
Yeah, like I said, you have to be careful. You have to do not set it for MP3 because you won't catch anything. You have to set it up for wave format. It has to be raw format. Do not set it on MP3 because, like I said, you will not catch anything.
Okay, Kangi. Yeah, you know what? And that's with the feedback with the show. We're not sure how technical to get or not. We've had complaints saying we get too technical, and then other people saying, please get more technical. And it's really down the fence. Rob and I are like, which way do we go with this show? And so we just keep riding the fence. Ben, thank you for stopping by. Yes, I know it's getting late. But Lisa, to answer your question, we can make a list of equipment that Rob's got more experience investigating. He could probably write out a better list than I could.
You know what? If you want a great I mean, I have two of these. 2 extras, brand new in the box.
Who's that?
These.
Oh, is that the EMI meter?
It's a tri-field.
Okay.
So it's a tri-field meter. So this is not affected by RF. The RF field, it's booting up. It takes a little while. Shoot. So the RF field.
Hey, Kevin. Thank you for joining us, even though it's
3 different levels. So you'll see the red or the pink, the blue and the green, or yellow. The yellow is EMF. The top one is RF, which is radio frequency, and then the middle one, I forget what it is. Anyway, but this, even if you're on a cell phone, you'll see it hitting the top, which is RF. So that's telling you that there's radio frequency being broadcast somewhere. So this will get rid of any of false positives. So this is a great device. So if you're walking around and you start seeing stuff, you'll be like, oh, somebody's on their cell phone, because you'll start understand the readings. Oh, this there's got to be some other type of radio frequency somewhere, and other people's devices are going to be, so if they're carrying a K2, they're carrying something else, their devices are going to be going crazy. You're going to be like, well, that's just RF interference. I have proof right here. So this will help explain any false positives that any other device is getting. That's what makes this device amazing.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action.
Yeah. I just use it to see, where there's RF readings. That's all I use it for, nothing else. It's just to help me understand where there might be some type of interference.
Are you reading the comments? Kevin reminded me I was late, and I'm usually so punctual. And Carl asked if I wet the bed, or if Kevin wet the bed, inferring that I wet the bed. Carl, I told you not to talk about my issues.
So yeah, because Josh was late
to
yesterday's show, and I told everybody that I'm gonna put Josh's hand in a bucket of warm water so he can pee the bed, and that's where that's coming from. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for reminding me.
Exactly, Lisa. Yeah, I'm gonna get you guys banned from Vegas shows because I'm gonna expose all of their tricks.
Yes, PD, we're talking about the Olympus VN 4100.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yep, that's the one. There's like a few. I mean, I just pulled up eBay when I look for that picture. And I like doing that because when I start talking, I'm going to say, yeah, they're up on eBay right now. There's 1, 2, 3.
May I recommend one of my personal favorites, Rob?
What's
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
There's pages and pages of them. Some of them are brand new in the package, $60, which is not a bad deal. Some of them are $30 in the package. Right. So, yeah, there's a bunch. There's 2 pages worth.
There is an Olympus that's my secret weapon for EVP. If you're just going to have one recorder, it's essentially the Olympus VN 4100, but the high fidelity version. And Olympus called it the LS7. They incorporated a Wolfson microelectronics digital to analog converter in that. And it picks up EVPs like the VN 4100, but in 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So it pulls in EVPs like a magnet, like the 4100, but it does so in high fidelity. And what's interesting is the Wolfson Microelectronics DAC in there has a pretty audible noise floor, but it seems to help proliferate EVP. So you're getting a lot of EVPs with this noise floor, but it's in 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I really like the LS7 for that reason. It's been my go-to.
What is it? LS7?
The Olympus LS7. It is discontinued.
I'm gonna check.
Yeah, they were a little more expensive when they first came out, probably $150. They were considered among their high fidelity recorders. But it's been one of my secret weapons. Again, for something just to hold in your hands that fits in your pocket, the Olympus LS7. You will not be disappointed.
The only thing I'm finding is
windscreens.
You're
not going to find it. If you can find an Olympus LS7, get it.
LS10.
Nope, not going to do it. It's got to be the LS7. It's got to have the Wolfson Microelectronics DAC. That was in the LS7. That, in my opinion and my research, is the secret to that recorder and how it picks up EVPs, but it's in high fidelity. It's a high fidelity 4100 in my opinion.
LS100.
Nope, won't do it. Nope. Those have such higher quality A to D and D to A converters that they eliminate a lot of that noise floor, which may help, again, proliferate the EVP. That's why I say the LS7. It sits right in between high fidelity and some of their older technology. It's like a hybrid, if you will. It's as they were crossing into pure high fidelity recorders, they had the LS7. It was like the hybrid, if you will.
Yeah, no, only LSP4.
They're hard to find.
Yeah.
If you can find one, it's in a reasonable price, do not hesitate. If you want to capture EVP in a small digital recorder. Olympus LS7.
Nope, can't find one. Sorry, guys.
Never mind. I just wasted 5 minutes of everyone's time.
Yeah, but anyway, if anybody wants one of those devices I showed, I have 2 of them. So shoot me a message. And they're really not expensive. They run on 2 AA's or AAA or no AA. Was it 2 or 3? I don't remember. But anyway, they're amazing devices. And like I said, it will help you determine. It'll point out false positives.
There's one other recorder I was going to recommend. It's so, the recording quality is so terrible, and I call it the ghost box of recorders. But if you could ever find an RCA 5013A, RCA 5013A. In LP mode, it is the junkiest quality you will ever hear. In fact, it's probably worse than the DR60. I don't even think it's 6-bit. It's probably 6-bit, 6 kilohertz. And there's so many noise artifacts, it's hard to listen, but when you get an EVP, it just pops out and jumps out at you. It's one of my favorite secret weapons too, and might as well let someone else know.
Is it a black one with big buttons on it?
No, it was a really like 80s neon, like it had bright yellow border. It was gray. It felt cheap. It was cheap. But in LP mode, you feel like you're listening to a radio scanning, but then these voices just pop out right over that static, and you're just like, whoa, how does this recorder get this clear voice? It's an anomaly. It really is. That recorder and the LS7 have been my 2 go-tos for digital handheld recorders.
By RCA?
Or RCA 5013A. They made a 5012B. That one was a little bit more refined. Still got some decent EVPs with that one, but the 5013A is just.
Oh, here it is.
It's probably like $9.
Yep.
Yeah, they're everywhere. People probably bought them to use as. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It looks like something out of the 80s. But
like a Star Trek device, something that they would use on Star Trek.
I used to take my dog for a walk when I lived at an old location, and I used to bring that recorder with me. And I could record for 30 seconds and listen back in headphones and just almost like full sentence conversations out of it. That was my experience with that recorder. I can't guarantee you'll have that experience, but that recorder was an anomaly. Those are the two that have always kind of interested me.
Yeah, no, I was looking.
You're not, yeah. Experiences may vary. I can't guarantee anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys, we're gonna end the show. I didn't realize it's 10:30. It's past Josh's bedtime.
First, it's past my bedtime, then I pee the bed. I can see where my reputation with the show is going.
Hold on, Carl. Let me look. I'm having everybody shop on eBay. It's called the TAKH. If you just do a search for Ghost Box on eBay, you'll see it. It's called the TAKH TB-1.
Roland, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you come back. It was great to have you, and thank you for contributing with your comments. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Sorry we get on a little rant sometimes. It's all over the place. We just, we have a topic, we go off topic, I go on a rant, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, we went from trying to address or apply ITC into string theory, and now we're talking about recorders. So yeah, who knows where the show goes.
Yeah, and then I send everybody on shopping sprees on eBay.
We're spending their money, right? It's easy to spend someone else's money. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And this Saturday, obviously, yours truly has been promoted. I'm going to be on the Saturday shows, helping to facilitate things, kick things into higher gear, keep Rob on track for you guys. That's why I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'll see you guys Saturday.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I see squirrel and I just get distracted. I'm like, squirrel, and I just start like going off topic.
Rob, pay attention. Pay attention.
No, squirrel.
You see the squirrel and I'm peeing the bed. We're completely useless.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
If you guys have any topics that you guys want,
Kevin,
just let us know. And yeah,
we'll do our best.
Hey Lisa, why don't we do this? Why don't we have you on once you come back from Lindsay Borden, and we'll talk about your experiences.
Oh no, I'm now the butt of our jokes. That's okay. That's okay. I deserve it.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to come on the show, talk about whatever.
Thank you, Nathan.
Just let us know. We haven't had a guest on in a while.
It has been a little while. We've been working on the projects. We need to kind of get back on that. Get some other people in here because we're rambling too much. Nora, thank you for joining us. I hope you join us next time.
Also, if anybody would want to have a guest that used to facilitate, well, she was a docent at the Whaley House. If you guys would like to have her on, we can bring her on. And,
yes, Rob. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we can probably do that.
Oh, Carl says get Sonia Rinaldi, please. That would be awesome, Carl. I don't think she'd have anything to do with us. It would be awesome if she would come on the show.
We can try it. It's funny. Maybe I can tell her that we're having getting a lot of the same messages coming through.
Oh, I'd be honored to have her on. Kevin says he co-hosted several Lizzie Borden investigations. Kevin's got tremendous experience, especially just with researching anything. I think our audience knows more than we do, Rob. It's kind of awkward when our friends in the audience know more than us, but we have to do the show.
Yeah.
We're just doing the best we can. Let's keep trying.
All right. Okay, guys, sorry. I'm just seeing squirrel and I'm like going back on a rant.
Can't even close the show.
Exactly.
Congratulations, Petey, on buying a 4100. That's awesome. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, everybody that went on my shopping spree.
Thank you, Mr. Poe.
Thanks for shopping. I just earned some money. You guys don't even know it. I get a commission off of all of those purchases. I'm teasing. I wish. Okay. Well, congrats, Lisa, for buying one also.
You're supposed to say good night and end the show. That's okay.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys. See you Saturday.
Bye.